Good afternoon, Rotarians, guests, and friends. We are very excited about our program today. They rearranged their schedule, Kathy and Kathryn, to be able to be here with us today. They were scheduled to come to meet with us earlier, and we're really excited. Our office staff has planned a great program. We will begin with the national anthem, followed by the invocation and four-way test that will be given by Molly Rydell.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Please let us pray together. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and your support. Help us to grow closer as a club and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, God, as we make decisions that affect children and those less fortunate than ourselves in our community and around the world. Please continue to remind us that all we do through the Cincinnati Rotary is for the service of humanity. We seek your blessings on the tasks before us. Please bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, and our work with clarity and accuracy. Thank you for the meal we are about to enjoy and for our two speakers today. We ask these things in your name, Almighty Father. Amen. Amen. And now let us recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. Next, we will hear from our Sergeant at Arms today, Mike LaValle. And Mike will also make an announcement regarding Camp Allen's 100th year anniversary and the celebration that's upcoming. Mike?
Thanks, President Melinda. Oh, here it is. We have two guests with us today. With us, we have Alicia Murphy. Alicia, if you would stand up. Where are you? Alicia is with the First Title Agency, and she's a guest of Melinda Kelly. We also have Tom Wyant. Where are you, Tom? Tom's back there. Tom is with Red Brick Financial Partners, and he's a guest of Chad Nieder. So let's give them an applause for coming and being a guest and for our Rotarian bringing guests today. Is this ready to go, Melinda? Yes, it is. Or not to be new. Okay, a couple weeks ago, if you were in attendance, Owen Rassman was up here to talk about the presentation we're going to give over the next couple weeks or the next couple months, every other week, regarding the history of Camp Allen. And Owen told you about the first 10 years, and nothing really happened with Camp Allen during those 10 years, other than we started in 1910, and by 1916, 6 years later, we were already involved with kids with tuberculosis and with crippled children at General Hospital. So we already had the ball rolling. So I'm here to talk about the next 10 years, which starts in 1920-21. That new year, to the big hearts of our club, brought the increasing problem of crippled children. The Commonwealth of Ohio had been the vanguard due to old daddy Edgar Allan of Elyria. So Edgar Allan really championed crippled children in the state, and thus that's where the name Camp Allen began. He fathered the Ohio Society of Crippled Children and later gave his life to this work. But we developed a program that went along, and by the way, all this history comes from your Rotary days, the blue book that you all get as a member. This is where all this research came from. So if you need, this is edited, so if you need more, feel free to go back there and you can always find more. So anyway, we did it well, but with championing further programs, not with just money, but an enormous amount of busy men's times, thought, and energy was given to lighten the unfortunate's footsteps. We had a nurse make a survey of crippled children, and we paid that transportation cost and hired a nurse to oversee them. Later, arranged for them to go to school for cripples, which is what it was called in those days. It was held in vacant wards at General Hospital. We bought a bus to get them there, and later on we added more buses as business increased. In one campaign, over $2,000 was raised. Now that's $2,000 of 1920 money. There was even a schedule that took a group of members to eat lunch with them on every Wednesday. And then General Hospital gave up a room where these crippled children were quartered, and reportedly the only food they got came from the milk fund. So the big hearts of our club, we found them an additional cook. Then finally we interjected ourselves into a meeting with the Board of Education and begged for a special school for the crippled child. Does that sound familiar? That's what eventually became the Condon School. And we gave the State Society for Cripples $1,000. So in 1921, 22, we started the camp for crippled children at Camp Allen. Now remember, we just started in 1910. So here we are 11 years later when we started Camp Allen. And we started by renting the 40 acres from the old Chautauqua grounds from the rail car line and appropriated $500 for a nurse to run it, and later upped this to $750. That first year we had 66 children, and this is the way they put it in the book. They gained 2 3/10 pounds on average. So that was important enough to write it in our book. And it cost $1.02 a day per kid. So we sent our nurse up to Cleveland for additional training on crippled work. We gave Christmas dinner and gifts to the blind, Christmas party and dinner for the cripples at Children's Hospital, and another at Branch Hospital. And we sent 90 handicapped little Americans out to Camp Allen. Not to mention also in that year, we got going the world's first scout troop for crippled kids, for crippled boys at that time. And then in 22-23, we gave $1,000 again to the Society for Crippled Children. So that's it for those 10 years, but what I also want to do is bring you a little bit up to date of what's going on out there right now. You've heard about our project. They started before the weather got bad. And if you look at that picture, you can see some light-colored siding clear on the left and on the right. That's where they replaced some of the damaged siding that had been, it had some rot and was weather worn. So they've taken that off and put the new stuff back on in this area, in these couple areas. And this is an area where the refrigerator freezer is on the inside of the building. And during that process, we found that the freezer panels had been loosened, and cold air was leaking directly onto the back side of this paneling. So that was where the worst area of the paneling was. So we'll bring you up to date as our history moves along. But that's it for today, and Fred Fisher will be up here 2 weeks from today and give you the next iteration of the Camp Allen History Moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike, for doing double duty. Appreciate it. Thank you. Our next announcement today will be a special announcement from Don Keller. Don will tell us a little bit about Rotary's Got Talent. Following Dan, we will have another special announcement about our CPS Gamble Montessori Project, which will be introduced by Kelly Collison, followed up by Bill Stilley. So, Don?
Thank you, President Melinda. It's time to shine. I know Rotary Club members like to shine. They like to get out and show everyone what their talent is. So summer's coming. This is going to be a chance for you to get out with your Rotary family and friends. It's time to show off that talent. It could be singing, it could be lip syncing, dancing, juggling, comedy, whatever talent that you have that you would like to share with the others. So we're going to have an event on Saturday evening, June 25th, out at the Drex Stepping Stone Center. It'll be in the gymnasium, and this will be your opportunity to bring that talent and show it to the whole club. We're hoping to get 10 people to volunteer to do this. It can be you and your partner, you and other Rotarians, however you want to put it together. But we'd like to get 10 acts to perform that night. If you think back pre-COVID, we had 2 lip sync events, which were really a lot of fun and very, very successful. And so we're going to try to bring that back. This is also going to be in combination with the what used to be the red light table event, which was postponed, as you know, because of COVID. And so Brian Vielhauer and I are going to pull this together, and we're going to bring the two events together. So it's a combination of the red light table and Rotary's Got Talent. So again, it's Stepping Stones, Saturday evening, June 25th. We'll have more details in terms of price and menu and adult beverages and so forth that will be taking place that night. But in the meantime, hopefully in the next month, I can get 10 people who will volunteer to come forward with some form of talent. I know it's out there, and this is your chance to show it off to everyone in the club, and hopefully we'll have a big turnout that night. So again, mark your calendars, June 25th. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day from Kelly, Kathleen, Marie Collison. If I don't wear green, it's just a sin. So happy St. Patrick's Day. And I've been asked to share just in a minute or two a little bit about hands-on service with the Rotary. So I have been a member for 1 year this month, and I've had an absolute blast. I've had so much fun meeting a lot of you. I look forward to meeting the rest of you and working side by side on hands-on service projects. I had a blast working at Gamble Montessori and getting my hands dirty with Imago and fellow Rotarians and building outdoor classrooms. The work I do with Magnify Giving is about the youth and letting them use their gifts and talents. And COVID really put a crunch on many educational formats, I would dare say all of them, but particularly Gamble Montessori. And Rotary is always there to pick them back up. So that's one project that you'll be hearing more about. I encourage you to get outside or go inside and build a shed or whatever it is the requests are. Bill and his committee do a fantastic job. So I encourage you, get out, get your hands dirty, and I hope to see you out there. Thanks.
Do we have the slides? Good afternoon, Rotary Club 17. I've come to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a Rotary Club. In fact, the 17th oldest Rotary Club in the universe. They decided to have a club project to benefit their city. Club member Deborah Schultz enlisted the help of other groups, such as Green Umbrella and Imago, to find a worthy set of projects to choose from. The club members voted and decided to choose the Cincinnati Public Schools project. Environmental Sustainability Chairwoman Jody DeVoyd gathered her fearless warriors and set out for Gamble Montessori School on the west side of the city. With plans set and conscripts a many, they gathered their implements of work and set off to conquer and build at the site of the battle, Gamble Montessori. With axe and spade, they battled the evil and dastardly honeysuckle plants. Sir Stephen and Sir James victoriously removed the king honeysuckle plant, thus defeating the honeysuckle horde. Having won the battle of the honeysuckle, Dame Jody joined with Sir Superstar Hux Miller and the hands-on warriors to build new benches, growing pits, and trails to explore, all for the learning youngsters to enjoy. The final portion of the project was yet to complete. More planning and raising of funds was needed. Once again, Dame Jody gathered her crew of experts to tackle the task, creating a pergola for the children to learn as they study their curriculum and stay safe and dry underneath. Once again, Dame Jody gathered her people who would make this happen. They met at the Gamble Montessori School. From GME was Melissa Ridley, the principal, Beth Schlimm from the school. From CPS, their facility managers, Robin Brandon. And from Cincinnati Rotary Club 17, Melinda Kelly, Mike LaValle, Jim Neidhard, Ariel Miller, Jody DeVoyd, and Bill Stilley. Of the 450 GME students who will benefit from this outdoor learning center, they are 66% African American, 22% Caucasian, 3% Hispanic, and 9% other. And 69 of those students have disabilities, and 100% are on reduced or free breakfast and lunches. The expected growth by 2026 will be 550 to 600. If you look at the top right-hand illustration, you'll notice a box around one of those areas of the pergola. That's phase one, which is what we are doing this Rotary year. Raising funds is no easy task. It's very difficult. Ariel Miller and Jim Neidhard really stepped up. They really stepped up. I mean, they really stepped up. We'd like to thank these generous donors who made this financially possible. First off, Cincinnati Rotary Club 17. Okay. And you can read the rest of those that are up on the screen. In addition to that, we just got a donation from La Rosa's. Primarily, we would like to recognize some folks who really did a great job. And so being honored knighthood this day, if you would stand, Jody DeVoyd. Ariel Miller. Where's Ariel? Oh, over there, okay. And James Neidhard. Let's give them a round of applause. They really did wonderful. And special thanks to the other members listed who are now members of the Round Gear Table. Thank you so much for all you have done to make this project possible. And it won't be long before we're looking at the pergola at Gamble Montessori School. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you everyone on the committee. And I know Deborah Schultz may not be here, but she was on the research committee to begin all of this. Let's give Deborah Schultz a round of applause as well. Next, our meeting sponsor of today is the Under the Weather Company that's owned by Kelly Mahan. Wave, Kelly. And to present for Under the Weather today will be Jeff Geiser of Under the Weather. And thank you again, Kelly and your company, for sponsoring our meeting today. Jeff?
Thank you, President Melinda. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll get that out of the way. Since our launch in 2010, from the beginning, Under the Weather has been side by side with other parents, sports fans, and outdoor warriors, braving the elements and engaging with customers to build a following, a community, and a brand whose core mission is delivering relief and comfort. Our high-quality pop-up pod tents, wearables, and accessories are designed to protect anyone seeking relief from the weather, insects, and more. The essence of our mission is to deliver comfort, joy, and peace of mind to those determined to live life to its fullest, no matter what the circumstances. Like all brands and companies, since the inception of the pandemic, we were tested. Our team proudly rose to the occasion, responding with new product lines, such as our award-winning Shield Pod and Intubation Pod, to deliver more protection and peace of mind when and where it was most needed, on the front lines. Our newest products have also led to explosive growth in the business-to-business space, for which we'll be hiring 2 new business-to-business salespeople in 2023. It's an exciting and challenging time, and we're proud to be a part of American innovation, growing a novel brand and a new category, and contributing in our own small way to making life better, safer, and much more fun for all of our customers. We are honored to be here today as a meeting sponsor to partner with the Rotary Club of Cincinnati in its mission of serving others above their self. Thank you. And one last piece of business for us is we do have everyone that I'm drawing a blank on the word, but we're doing a raffle on the MyPod 2XL, and I'm going to pull the name now. So whoever's name's pulled, I'll go and grab it and hand it off to you. This handwriting's pretty bad. It's Brad something.
Brad Green.
Okay. Is that Brad Green? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Congratulations, Brad, and thank you again, Kelly, for sponsoring the meeting, and Jeff for your announcement. We have some additional announcements. We have several members celebrating birthdays this week, and a few of them have passed. John Farmeyer, March 15th. Tim Hirschner, March 17th. March 19th, we have 4 Rotarians' birthdays. Julie Calloway, Glenn McEachran, Uda Papke, and Michael Villardo, March 19th. March 20th, there are 2 Rotarians, Mary Dicker and Steve Rosenzweig. So let's give all of our Rotarians with birthdays a round of applause. We have Split the Pot coming up in just a little bit, as soon as I get the information. But before we get to that, we do have a March Madness Rotary Raffle. So March Madness is back, and we're really excited about it. All the tickets have been sold, and the names will be chosen for the schools, for those of you who've purchased tickets, and you will be given the information for which team that you will be representing with your donations that you've already given to the office. The first team eliminated gets their $20 back, their entry fee. The tournament runner-up will come in second place and will receive $60, and the first place winner receives $600. And all of the proceeds benefit the club membership development fund. So thank you for those of you who have purchased tickets for March Madness. Now we will do the split the pot. And today's winner will receive $44. And the accumulating pot is $1,318. And so everyone is eligible for the first ticket draw, and Club 17 members are eligible for the accumulating pot. And I will ask Kathryn if she would pull the winning ticket, please.
Oh, good grief, just...
There you go. Good job. Thank you. And the winning ticket is, the last four digits are 7, 9, 5, 4. 7, 9, 5, 4. Oh, Finley. Okay, he's going to be drawing for the Queen of Hearts. It's an ace, not the Queen of Hearts this time. Well, the pot gets larger and larger, so we'll look forward to it for next week. And Christy shows him the Queen of Hearts is in the deck. Thank you so much again. We have the professional development series coming up. The last of the series will be the art of feedback and managing difficult conversations. That professional development series the presenter will be Brent Seelmeyer. And we'd like to thank Russell Smith for all of the series, the 3 that we've had this year. The first 2 were great. Stand, Russell. Let's give Russell a round of applause. Please contact the Rotary office if you're interested in attending and haven't done so. That meeting will be April 7th, and it's 10:30. It will be the same day of our Rotary meeting earlier, and typically we're in the Julep Room on the 3rd floor. Family of Rotary, please check your E-raise and provide information to the office if there's things that you would like to share with your Rotary family. We also provide that information in E-raise and also in our private Facebook group for updates. So don't hesitate if there's something you'd like to share, even events with your families. I just spoke with one Rotarian whose daughter got a scholarship to Xavier, and if those are things like that you'd like to share too, please feel free to do that. Contact Sarah or Christy in the office with the information. Next week, our program will be the Jefferson Awards, and we've done a lot of work with that, and Bill Shula has coordinated that award for a number of years, and he's working with 2 other coordinators this year. Bill, would you stand, please? We're looking forward to next week for the Jefferson Awards. Thank you, Bill. Next, we will have our program introduction today. We will have Al Conscious, and we're very glad to have Al back. And let's continue to keep Al and his family in our prayers. Al?
Thank you, President Melinda. Thanks to the entire Rotary Club for all your thoughts and prayers and generous donations to the designated charities and the flowers and the cards as we mourn and celebrate the loss of my dear wife. Thank you. Today we're very pleased to have 2 very prominent women with us today. Kathy Hilker, who you'll hear about shortly, and Kathy Merchant has written a book about her life. Strangely, this morning, we have a friend who's a filmmaker in Chicago, Susan Todd, and it turns out that Susan is a horseback riding buddy of Kathryn's from their teenage years. So we reunited them. She's behind the curtain. No, not really. She's on Zoom. Felt like Bob Edwards there from This Is Your Life. Remember that? But anyway, Kathy Merchant has, I've known her for a long time, and she's great. She has combined the joy of philanthropy with the passion for writing. Many of you know her from her long stint as CEO of the Greater Cincinnati Foundation. She ran that for quite a while. Her second act is a journalist and author, and so she co-authored Kathryn Hilker's biography, and the proceeds of which benefit the zoo. And they have signed copies of the book out in the foyer afterwards if you would care to purchase one. Kathy has also served as the managing editor of Arts Waves, groundbreaking anthology of nearly 200 women who have shaped the community's cultural vibrancy, and that was called Cincinnati Arts and the Power of Her, and that was in 2020. Kathy also writes about travel, wine, and food on her blog, Vino Ventures. We're members of the Society of Bacchus together, and I find Kathy to be one of the most knowledgeable wine people that I've run across. So we're very happy to have both of them here. Please welcome Kathy Merchant.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just want to make sure I don't go past time. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I kind of wish I had been here in January, because then I wouldn't have this. I'm 4 weeks out of major knee surgery, so I'm just kind of limping around, and just ignore that. So Kathryn Hilker and Kathryn Merchant spell their names the same way, one with a C and one with a K. We share that in common. And today we share a few things that are impediments, one of which is that Kathryn will not be able to hear what I'm saying because the room is too tall. She just won't. And so when we get to questions at the end, I'd be happy to translate, so to say, but she knows what I'm going to say. So no dirty little secrets will come out during this presentation. And let me begin. Hold on one second. Let me put that down there. Too many things. So I want to tell you a little bit about the backstory of how this book got started. If you know Kathryn, and a number of you have come up to welcome her and say hello today, you'll know that she's an amazing woman, but she's very, very humble about her accomplishment. She always tries to pass credit off to other people. Well, it just ain't so. So for years, literally, people, friends of Kathryn's, tried to get her to write an autobiography. And it turns out that Kathryn is a very good writer. She used to teach English at Hillsdale, now Seven Hills. So she's got her own little set of hidden talents, but she just couldn't quite get there. So a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, two friends of Kathryn Hilker's convinced her to allow her biography to be written. So if you know Dr. Cora Ogle, or you know Dr. Nancy Zimpher, the former president of University of Cincinnati, these two ladies strong-armed her until she finally said yes. And then further, they said, and we know who should write your book, because I had just published that fantastic book about the women in Cincinnati who've made our community so culturally vibrant since the 1850s. I'm like, okay, well, I've never written a biography, but that never stopped me before. So a few of you have said to me today, you have the strangest set of things in your second act. And it's like, okay, I'll give you that. This is an odd lot of things: wine, food, and travel, writing books, all of that, but it's all great, and I love every second of it. So let us proceed. Let me make sure I do this the right way. Which one goes for? Oh, okay. That would have blinded me. So here's what we're going to cover today, if you can see that. So this is what I call a love story in 2 acts. Kathryn's second act is very different from mine, but you can almost divide Kathryn's life in 2. Because at about age 40-ish is when she decided she would indulge her passion for cheetahs and embark on a whole other career at the zoo, which I'm going to share with you. I have a couple of thank yous. So in addition to thanking Kathryn for allowing me this privilege to write her story, and I've already thanked Cora Ogle and Nancy Zimfer, I would also like to thank Julie Lowry, who's here today. Julie, wave. Because if it weren't for Julie, mechanically, none of this was ever going to work. So she's amazing, and I thank you forever. Yeah. And then before I turn the page, I'd also like to thank Thane Maynard and his everything. I don't even know that she has just one title, Christina Anderson, if you happen to know Christina. The 2 of them could not have been more supportive to cause this book to be written. And I'll probably say this a couple of times because it's super important to me. I spent my entire career working in philanthropy, and both of the books that I have written benefit their sponsors, not me. And that was by design. This book benefits the Cincinnati Zoo, and in particular, its internationally renowned efforts up to this point and in the future for cheetah conservation. Okay. Kathryn's favorite saying is, "Your life is defined by the people you meet." And I have just a few excerpts from the book that I'm going to read instead of trying to paraphrase them. This first one is from Kathryn's preface to the book. "I confess that I did not want to be the focus of a book. Many people have asked me to write my autobiography, but I honestly don't see why my story might be interesting. There are so many accomplished and wonderful people who have influenced the course of my life. Now that is interesting. My beloved cheetahs are the centerpiece of my life. Along with my horses, they are the long thread of who I am, of my soul, from the time I was a little girl until this moment at age 89, which is when we conducted the interview. Kathryn's book was published last year on her 90th birthday." Yeah, that's pretty cool. You can clap about that. And we're going to have number 91 here this next coming June. So this piece is from my author's note. Kathryn Hosea made a brash decision in 1957 when she was just 26 to spend 2 months in Africa with a man she barely knew. Spicy, right? It was love at first sight. So you may be thinking that this encounter led to a trip down the aisle. Nope, quite the contrary. Kathryn was single until she married Carl Heggie Hilker Jr. in 1969 when she was nearly 38 years old. On that fateful trip to Africa, Kathryn fell in love with the country in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro and found an enduring passion for cheetahs in the wild that exploded into action when a cheetah named Angel entered her life. This book partially honors Kathryn's wish for a cat-centric story, but leaving out the many other parts of her story, like what happens when you won't take no for an answer, or when your answer was no when you should have said yes, and the fantastic mix of people who shaped her life and career. This would be to miss the essence of a very accomplished woman. And there she is as a little girl, and those are her parents on the left. This little excerpt was written by Kathryn herself. I had no real playmates except my 3 older brothers, so I created a world in which I lived with my dog, my cat, my pony, and the people who worked on my farm. The farm included a 10-acre woodland filled with walnut trees where I frequently sequestered myself with wonderful make-believe playmates. I knew and loved every inch of that farm because I had walked it, ridden my pony over it, and for the first few years of my life, the farm was who I was. I didn't exist outside that farm. It was the center of my life. I loved lying on the ground. My mother would say, "Get up off the ground, Kathryn. You're going to catch pneumonia." I heard that my entire life. Moving on. Whoops, I have another picture here. There we go. Now to the horse phase. I don't know, do you all know about the Camargo hunt? This is a very prestigious, complicated thing that requires incredible skill and talent, which Kathryn had, and she participated in it for a very long time until all that bouncing up and down on a horse was kind of, no longer possible. But she was introduced to fox hunting and field trials, which added another dimension to her life. She jumped anything and everything through swamps, up and down the rolling hills of Kentucky, over wire fences. And she said, I learned how to follow hounds in what's called speed and drive hunting. I learned how to listen to the hounds, how to tell which hound was in the lead, and how to follow the lead. In 1962, she placed 6th in field jumping and said about that, I was so thrilled, you would have thought I won the whole thing. So now a very, very quick bio. So as I mentioned, that Kathryn taught at Hillsdale. She also graduated from Hillsdale in 1949. And the picture on the right is of Kathryn in Colorado. She graduated from the University of Cincinnati ultimately, but attended a school in Florida and then also University of Colorado before graduating in a, now today familiar 5-year span from the University of Cincinnati. Well, so then what? Kathryn didn't have an exact next step, so I wanted to mention a couple of things that are in their own right remarkable. First, right after she graduated, she took off with the United Service Organization, USO for short, and went to Guam, where she entertained the troops. She could play the piano, she could sing, she coordinated the other women who were there to entertain the servicemen, and that lasted for about a year. She then went on to Japan to see friends of the family, but the funniest part about this story is that there was a trunk that she was given, as were all the ladies, I assume, this massive trunk to put her stuff in. And Cora Ogle actually had possession of this trunk, and in it were, pictures and papers and all this stuff that we actually sorted through to write this book. And it wasn't until almost the 99.9th second of writing this book that we understood that that was her Guam trunk. Kathryn just kind of forgot to tell me that story, but we grabbed it, and there it is. She then, 2 years later, had a major story, and I'm going to read you just a few little excerpts from that, going to Africa with the person who I was laughingly saying she fell in love with. Well, not really. It was Dr. Byron Bernard, who was at that time the part-time veterinarian for the Cincinnati Zoo. And before I turn to that, let's see how I'm doing on time. Medium. I may or may not read you an excerpt from a book that was written by Dale Peterson. If any of you know Dale Peterson, he wrote a book actually about Jane Goodall, and Kathryn is mentioned in this book, and I'll tell you just a smidge about that. So here's a short story from Kathryn about her trip to Africa in 1957. Her plan was to meet Dr. Bernard at a hotel in Leopoldville, as it was called at that time. Kathryn remembers her somewhat unnerving arrival in Africa more than 60 years ago. It was a long trip, flying alone to the Belgian Congo. I was a little worried. I didn't know whether Byron would actually show up, and I had no way to communicate with him. I had made up my mind, though, if he didn't show up, I would spend a few days in the Congo, see as much as I could, and then fly back home. That was my plan B. I was 6'2" at the time and very capable of taking care of myself. So he did show up. Kathryn and Dr. Bernard embarked on a 5,700-mile trek across Africa, across the continent from the East Coast through the Belgian Congo, around Lake Victoria, and along the border between Tanganyika and Kenya to Mombasa. They spent a month making their way from Leopoldville to the Indian Ocean. I think you should be getting the picture by now that this is an intrepid woman who will do, just about anything, is kind of the way it seems to me. The Chimpanzee Project in 1959, I really have to read this, sorry, it's just like so cool. This is from Dale Peterson's book, with his permission. Louis Leakey, that's a name you know, right, from the Chimpanzee Project and others. Kathryn had met Dr. Leakey through one of her mentors at the University of Cincinnati, connected the two of them, and he was of great admiration of both her professional credentials and her intrepid determination. So they entered into a conversation over a period of time to have Kathryn Hilker, then Hosea, but Hilker, go to Africa to study the chimpanzees. And at one point, while Lewis had gone silent in his correspondence with Jane Goodall, in fact, he was still exchanging letters with Kathryn Hosea, who was agonizing over that amazing job offer of studying wild chimpanzees in Tanganyika. The young American longed to go to Africa once again, but the lack of a concrete vision of what the project might entail, combined with Lewis's unreasonable insistence that she commit herself for 5 years, finally led her to decline what she nevertheless recognized was the opportunity of a lifetime. On May 31st, 1960, Jane Goodall postponed her recently announced wedding and headed to Africa to study chimpanzees, and the rest is history. Whoops. I forgot to do this picture. That's Dr. Schweitzer on the left, and Dr. Bernard, and Penelope, as they called her. It looks like it should be Penelope, but it's Penelope at the Cincinnati Zoo. Let me move on. And there's Dr. Leakey on the right, and Dr. Barber, who was her mentor at the University of Cincinnati at that time. So now we're into Kathryn's late bloomer years when she was teaching. That's a picture of her provided by Seven Hill School, looking very teacherly in her headband, sitting at the desk. And on the right is her engagement picture to Carl Heggie Hilker. Now this is really funny, so I have to read this. I'm really pressing my own time, and I know that, but these are in Kathryn's own words. I met Heggie Hilker at a formal dinner party at a good friend's house to celebrate her daughter's engagement. I thought they said his name was Peggy. I only mentioned that it was a formal long white tablecloth china, sterling, long-stemmed glasses, because what happened as we sat down, even now, seems inappropriate to its circumstances. This man at the other side of the table clinked his glass to get our attention, stood up, and repeated what had to be one of the dirtiest jokes I have ever heard. This was greeted by total silence. Then my friend said, "Thank you, Heggie, for your remarks. Now let's all enjoy the dinner prepared for us." I'm not going to read you the rest of the story. You have to buy the book to get that. It's on page 37. So then I want to move into the cheetah phase, talk to you a little bit about cheetahs. Again, this is Kathryn's wish to be cat-centric, and close so we'll have time for some questions. Kathryn's aha moment was actually created by this fellow, Al Oming, who's Canadian. He ran this big game farm in Alberta and was invited by Ed Maruska, who was then the zoo director, to come to Cincinnati. And Kathryn remembers vividly, as if it was right now, that she was sitting in the amphitheater, and when the cheetah walked by and she saw the cheetah's eyes, I mean, it makes the hair go up on my arms just to think about it. She was like smitten, and she was just like, okay, I'm in. I love this cat. So the people who were the most important to a very long time of Kathryn's second act at the Cincinnati Zoo were Ed Maruska, who was the zoo director until the year 2000, and then also Thane Maynard, who is currently the zoo director, but from 1968-ish or something like that, I might have that date a little bit wrong. Thane has had many jobs at the Cincinnati Zoo. If you've heard him speak, you know that he is a passionate, incredible advocate for the zoo, all of its animals, all of its people, and a wonderful speaker. And the two of them, as you can see from the smiles on their faces on this picture, were fast friends and thick as thieves and always making mischief. So Kathryn... She says, I love Thane Maynard. And it's true. So in order to fulfill her dreams about how cheetahs would be a centerpiece at the zoo, Ed Maresca, who could be kind of gruff, said to her, fine, you find the money and, I'll think about it. So Kathryn says, around 1980, I went to Barry Wakeman and suggested adding a cheetah to do our educational work. Instead of throwing up his hands and screaming, which apparently is what Ed had done, he helped me to achieve that. So cheetahs are tractable, which means that they're relatively easy to handle, and they quickly became the stars of the zoo shows where Kathryn was jumping cheetahs across the stage and taking them around to schools and, her very best friends. So then, another part of that story, Ed Maresca threw me out of his office when I said I wanted to start a full-blown cheetah program. He said, who the hell do you think you are? I told him I just thought it would be a good idea, and he responded, well, you'll never have a cheetah program as long as I'm the zoo director, so get the hell out. I mean, sorry, he really said that. He admitted it, so no lie. I mean, he threw me out of his office, says Kathryn, so I called Chris Calnow. Many of you probably know Chris. She was drop-dead gorgeous, and by God, I used that to my advantage. By the time I left Ed's office with Chris, all he said was this: I want you to understand, I will give you permission to do this, but don't ever ask me for any help. I will not give you any money. I will not support you in any way. If this is what you want to do, you do it. Well, that's what we wanted to hear. We raised the money. So I love the picture on the right. I did not yet work for the Greater Cincinnati Foundation at that time, but that is Kathryn asking the board, the distribution committee, and the executive director, Carolyn McCoy, for money for a van in the Star Bank building. They are literally in a conference room, and you really can't see like how much these guys are like trying to get back away from this cheetah, but it wasn't that cute. But how could you resist the picture on the left? Well, Jack Meyer, the founder of Frisch's, could not resist Kathryn Hilker. So Craig Meyer, Jack's son, would always say, Kathryn would ask for money, and my dad would say yes. Kathryn would ask for money, and it became, and we would say yes. And so this has continued through the entire Frisch family lineage, which is super funny. So now I just need to not read, I hope you can read some of the things that are on this slide. I am not going to read this list to you, but you need to understand that cheetahs were, and to a degree still are, an endangered species. And Kathryn was having none of it. This was always part of her educational program. She would take the cheetahs out for fun, but mostly to little kids. She would engage them in caring about the plight of cheetahs across the globe. Some friends of mine just came back from the Serengeti, and one of them is a really good photographer, and she saw a bazillion cheetahs in the wild. And I kept seeing her pictures on Facebook. I'm like, you've got to send me those pictures for Kathryn. So I gave it to her yesterday, and she goes, oh, I'm so grateful that there are so many cheetahs still in the wild. So Julie and I are like, and you're why? You need to understand this, that there are very few people in the world who've caused the numbers to reverse and to save cheetahs in the United States and in Africa, and Kathryn Hilker is chief among them. I'm almost done. What time is it? How much time do I have? Oh, God, I wanted to stop a minute from now. Okay, I'm just going to have to say that there are two cheetahs that really are Kathryn. They're kind of like one and the same. The first one on the left is Angel. Kathryn's actually written a book about Angel, and some of the excerpts from Kathryn's own book are in this book. So I hope you understand that this really, as Al said at the beginning, was kind of a co-authorship for the two of us. And then on the right is Sarah, who claimed the title of the fastest cheetah in the world in 2012, and this was the 100-meter run. This is a record which has been beaten by no human and no other cheetah. And this was an issue of National Geographic from 2012 that featured this amazing feat at the Cincinnati Zoo. Okay, I'm quick like a bunny. I'm not going to read you, Angel. You have to buy the book to read it. Okay, yep. And then I want to read you just this quote from Jane Goodall, and then we'll do questions. Immediately upon meeting Kathryn Hilker, I could tell we were kindred spirits. As young women, we were both enthralled with the idea of living with wild animals in Africa and spending the rest of our days with them. I eventually found my way to the chimpanzees, while Kathryn fell passionately in love with big cats, most notably the cheetah. She's dedicated her life to helping and caring for them. From Jane Goodall, none other than, the most important chimpanzee person in the world. So anyway, that's the fastest I can go through Kathryn's amazing story. I would be delighted to take a question. If you have a question directly for Kathryn, I'd be happy to get the mic over and have her answer it. Yes. Okay, so the story about Angel purring was a favorite trick of Kathryn's. She could get a whole room full of noisy kids to be quiet if she just put the mic up to the cheetah and it would start to purr, and all of a sudden they'd be like, silencio. Questions, comments? Yes, Doug.
So Kathryn talked about the reversal, that cheetah numbers are increasing. Can you have her talk, or can you talk about what the long-term trend is, given all the bad things that are going on in our environment and climate?
Kathryn, okay, so Doug wants to know, what are your thoughts about the long-term trends for cheetahs surviving in our complicated world? Do you think it's a good future?
There's a wonderful quote from Shakespeare that sort of covers that. And that is, there is a divinity that shapes our ends, rough hew them how we may. And for the cheetah, it has been a rough trip. And there was a time when cheetahs were extremely threatened in the wild. But there has been a tremendous rise in understanding and acceptance of the fact that diversity of life is what we need on this planet in order to survive, even as human beings. I think the future of the cheetah is tied to all of that. There is a divinity that shapes our ends. There's even a divinity that shapes the ends of the cheetah. And that says they will survive. There are places in Africa that are given over to the complete ends of the cheetah. There is a place that my husband and I have supported in Namibia. If any of you know Namibia, it's old German Southwest Africa. It's on the west side of Africa, Namibia. It's a wonderful country. It's a desert country. It's a tough country to live in. It's where the Skeleton Coast is. In fact, my husband and I landed an airplane, which is completely illegal, by the way. So if you ever fly in Africa, do not land on the Skeleton Coast. But we did. We landed on the sand and walked on that wonderful coast. It's where the wrecks of the ships are found, because they came in. You think you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Wonderful old Namibia, old German Southwest Africa. Cheetahs have a tremendous chance of surviving, I think, as much as any cat. In fact, I think one of the cats that is far more endangered than the cheetah is a beautiful snow leopard from Nepal. I was lucky enough to train a snow leopard. Her name was Tundra. And we went to many schools, and beautiful, shy Tundra always did what I asked her to do. We were even on a program with Brian Gumble. Remember Brian Gumble? And she jumped on his desk, which terrified him. He nearly fell out of his chair. But she was a wonderful cat. These endangered animals have a new lease on life because people have become so attuned to it. They will survive. and they must survive. That is my promise to you.
And I just want you to remember that Kathryn Hosea Hilker, our own Cincinnatian, stands right at the top of making that happen. So I think that that's it for us. I want to mention that I did bring some books for sale. I'm going to toddle myself on out to the table, and if you'd like to buy a book, we'd be happy to sell it to you. And just remember that 100% of the books that we sell today benefit cheetah conservation at the zoo. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you very much, Kathy and Kathryn. Thank you very much to Kathy for your introduction and your overview, and thank you so much, Kathryn, for your speaking and sharing with us personally. This is a Rotary pin for our theme year, which is Serve to Change Lives, which you certainly have done and served as an example, and thanks for all that you continue to do at the zoo. And this is yours. I'm going to catch you on the way. Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you all very much again, and thank you for the presentation. Let's give them another round of applause. We will also give a donation to the eradication of polio through Rotary International for your talk today. So thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the great meeting that we had, Rotarians, at the Fix Coffee House that was scheduled through the Membership Development Committee and Membership Retention. Michael Schatzman, would you please stand? And Michael did a great job. And Shirley Love guided us there in her new to-go element that's a few years old, but it's new to her, and so she was really excited. Thank you very much to Shirley for that. We have one meeting today in Boardroom 3 on the mezzanine level. That will be the Young Professionals Committee. And again, our meeting next week will be the Jefferson Award, so please be here for that. Make sure you RSVP at the office. And see Bob Herzog and Bill Shula. All right, if there's nothing else for the order, please have a great week. Meeting adjourned.